This is the Best or Worst Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Koji Steven Sakai and M. Martin Mapoma.
Welcome. This is Koji.
And I am Martin.
And this is the Best or Worst Podcast. Our society is so focused on celebrity, we sometimes forget that regular people lead interesting lives too. Best or worst moment of your life? Hosts Koji, that's me, and Martin, that's
me,
are here to let your story out. We put people on the spot. What are you going to hear? It could be funny. It could be poignant. It could be sad. You'll know when we know. Best or Worst is now a twice weekly podcast. On Tuesdays, we get to know our guest. That's what it is today. And on Thursdays, we find out about their best or worst moment. So, Martin, why don't you introduce our host or our guest? This is your
All right. Cool. So I've been dying to have this young cat on for a long time. So I'd like y'all to welcome to the little screen, the one and only Jack Van Scoter. Jack, how you doing?
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
I'm good. It's great to be here. Finally do this.
Cool. So you got the Stanley Cups behind you. So Jack is so just a little bit of brief history. Jack is an amazing athlete, and I started coaching when he was about 13 years old, and I'm constantly telling people that what I did was nominal compared to what he's achieved on his own. Jack's not very good at tooting his own horn, so I hope you don't get embarrassed if I say a couple of things.
You taught me fundamentals, Martin. It's not true that you didn't help. You helped a lot.
That's true. I know. Yeah, but still, I mean, I could never coach. Thank you. So Jack, Jack, give us a little bit of your background then, if you want to do it. Because I'm constantly impressed, with your achievements and the things that you've achieved in your short life so far already.
Well, sure, yeah, I can give a little bio. I've been in California for I should start at the very beginning. I was born in Texas, lived 13 years in Texas, moved to California when my dad's job changed. And one of the first people I met in California was Martin. Martin was working at the gym nearby. I forget what the gym was called. Martin, do you remember?
No, we don't have to bring that up. No props to them.
Martin and I bonded immediately. He taught me, as I said, the fundamentals of exercise, being healthy. Also have to give some credit to my mom, who taught me how to eat healthy. And my dad for beating my ass whenever I didn't want to work out with him on the weekends. So, between those three people, I learned how to be physically fit. And then when I started high school, I got into running. I got into cross country, I got into track and field. It just turned out that I had some talent for it. And
that's putting it lightly. That's putting it lightly. But go ahead.
So it's hard to measure exactly how much talent factored into it, but people like Martin taught me how to hone that talent and, work hard. So 4 years in high school, I had a few big accomplishments. I ran 4:16 as a sophomore, which was one of the fastest times in the mile that had ever been run. And then when I was a senior at Flint Ridge Prep in high school, I ran 8 minutes and 51 seconds for the 2 mile, which was the fastest time run by a Californian that year in that distance. I ran that in April of that year. Unfortunately, the state championship was in June, and by that point I had burned out and wasn't quite as good anymore, but at least I got that fast time out of the way.
Yeah.
And then I went to college. I went to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. I ran there, had some success, specifically my freshman year. I ran 4:05 in the mile. Still haven't broken that elusive 4-minute barrier. Roger Bannister still has it on me. Going back to the 1940s, he's still faster than me. But I'll get there. And then my junior year, I placed 64th in the nation in cross country 10K, which, given the thousands of people that compete collegiately, I was pretty happy with that. I just graduated from college. I was class of 2020, the COVID class. So I finished my last 3 months online, and as you all probably have noticed, most NCAA sports and professional sports have been getting canceled or being resumed and then recanceled. So I was left without any, guidance as to how to, maintain my fitness and build for a run, for the NCAA in the future when they reopen. So I turned to Martin, and we've been training together for the past 2 months or so.
Yep.
Rekindle that relationship, and that's probably all you need to know about me.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, it's funny. It's good having you back, Jack. It really, really is. Real quickly, so Jack was a kid. When he was 13. When he was 13 years old, I tell him you got to stretch, and he'd say, "Why?" I say, "If you don't stretch, you're gonna hurt yourself, or you got a foam roll." And you're like, "I don't want a foam roll." And I remember telling you one time that's exactly what your competition wants to hear. They want to hear that you don't stretch, you don't foam roll. I'll never forget the look on your face. You're like, "Huh, okay." And then I think, from then on, you were always stretching and foam rolling.
So how did you
I
get
was
into
a foam rolling aholic.
Yeah.
So
how did you get
Go
into
ahead.
running? How did you get into running?
So the first time that I remember thinking that running was cool was actually when I lived in Texas. I was probably 9 years old or something, and I had an older sister, Kate, who had swim practice all the time. And so my mom wanted me to stay at school while she had swim practice after classes were over. So I was stuck at my middle school for hours on end alone. So I just started running laps around the track because, I don't know, I was angsty and I needed to prove something. And I learned that, I was okay at it. I loved it. Then, I kind of played around with whether or not I actually wanted to try to compete with it. Martin was actually one of the people who encouraged me to do that.
Yeah.
When I came to California, he told me I was hot stuff, and that was big part of the confidence boost that I needed. And then about a year later, I started running competitively in 8th grade, and then kind of took off in 9th grade, and haven't looked back since.
So here's the most important question.
Everybody.
Do you listen to music or no music? Do you prefer what do you prefer when you run, or
So,
whatever you listen to?
Honestly, that's a good question.
When I'm on the treadmill, music is a must, or a podcast, like the Best or Worst podcast. But it just gets very boring on the treadmill. You need something. So on the treadmill, definitely music. But when I'm out and about, actually, when I'm running outdoors, I actually kind of like unplugging from the world. I'm one of those people who kind of, technology tends to overstay its welcome after a little while. So it is kind of nice to go for an hour or two and just I'll run off into the trails in anywhere in Los Angeles, and kind of lose myself for a while. And it's the reset I need.
Wow. That's interesting because I can't run without music. Definitely on the treadmill, but when I'm on my own, it's interesting because
when do you run?
Koji. Oh, that's right. Okay, so no, this I was like, wait a minute, why is Koji so interested in all of this? So Koji is super dad, and I'm trying. And Koji's awesome kid who I love very, very much. Koji thinks it's weird, but anyway. So he's training his 8-year-old kid to run a 5K.
Under 30.
So
under 30 is our goal. So we're way behind
under
you,
30.
obviously.
Yeah, but he's also 8, Koji. Yeah, but it's funny. Yeah, now I get it. Yeah, Jack is definitely the person you want to ask. I mean, when Jack says that he's kind of talented, there's less than 1% of the world that can run a 4-minute and 5-second mile.
Of course. Yeah. No.
And so,
I mean, we were happy today. We did our 5K in 10:14 or something, which is really great for us in that we the fastest before was 11:15 or 11:16. So we increased a minute a mile, which is really good for an 8-year-old, I thought.
It is good.
Very nice.
That kid's gonna smother you with a pillow, dude, one day. You're like, I'm done with running daddy. Yeah, but Jack is very modest about his running. He's very, very humble that way. But no, this kid is ridiculous.
What kind of things do you think about when you run? I'm now that I know you don't wear music, so do you just kind of zone out, or do you have thoughts? Do you think about philosophy? Tell me what you think about.
That's what I was going to ask him, because sometimes real quickly, because one of my clients that runs too, of course not as good, but he runs on cadence, like Jack Daniels, right? That book he has, his book on running. He talks about that cadence thing, and so Jeff would put he bought one of those cadence things for his watch, and he would run to that. And I always wondered if you'd ever done anything like that before.
I've never actually run to a specific cadence.
Or even breathing.
No, the breathing is definitely, especially if I feel like crap, I'll definitely go based on how well I'm feeling on any given day during my run. It kind of varies based on the day, and based on the runner. There are some runners, many of whom are, a bit better than me. One specifically is Eliud Kipchoge. You might have seen that he went sub 2 hours in the marathon. He's from Kenya. He's a badass. And what he always talks about is how running is actually a meditative process for him. He actually finds that, it's not about, being really tough and really gritty in races. It's actually about kind of reclining into yourself and finding kind of some peace with the discomfort that comes with, running as much as a distance runner has to do. And other guys just kind of like to, they like to run with other people so they can have a conversation. I have guys on my team at Georgetown who hate running alone, and they'll do anything. They'll even get up at 5 a.m. It means that they have a running buddy because they just hate being alone out there. I'm somewhere between the two. I enjoy thinking about things. Rarely do I come to any sort of profound answer to the great questions of our time, but sometimes when you're out there, maybe it's just because there's less blood flow to the brain. The problems that seem so complex to us when we're sitting in our chairs, writing a paper or reading the newspaper or whatever, actually seem way more simple out there. It just kind of gives you some perspective when you think about politics or something, and your brain is just like, well, obviously this is what you should do. You might not have that clarity if you're just sitting and almost too focused on it.
Yeah. I was on the swim team in water polo actually when I was at prep, and I remember doing when you do like the 5,000 and you're just going back and forth, it's just very, like in music, you can't listen to music when you're swimming. So I remember it was the only time I had a lot of thoughts to myself. But here, let me ask you a philosophical question then. For your next run, you can think about this. All right. If a person has no thoughts or any of the five senses is missing, does that person have a thought?
Sorry, say again?
So if a person never had five senses, touch, feel, anything, right? Could that person have a thought?
Excellent question.
So, you don't need to answer now, but maybe if you want. But
I
imagine a neuroscientist would probably be better able to answer that than me. But I guess
it's a philosophy. But it's philosophy, though, right? Because it's a matter of is our relationship to the world based on our five senses, or do we have something pre five senses? Feeling, touching. Assuming it's taken care of, right? Right.
Does existence precede essence, as certain philosophers like to ponder? I'm not a particularly spiritual person, so I'm not sure if I could reach for the argument that there is something in us that precedes our senses, that precedes, who we are, something that is greater than us. But then again,
but doesn't
everybody isn't.
I don't think it has to be godlike, though, right? It could just be, is there like a soul, whether that's spiritual or not? Is there like are we more than what we see, touch, feel, hear, or is our relationship to the world only based on things that we touch, see, hear? It's
feedback. Yeah. Is it a feedback loop?
Yeah.
Well, That's a good question.
Now you've got me messed up too, Koji.
I spend a lot of time thinking about these kinds of questions. But what's your major? Tell us what your major is.
So I majored in foreign service, BS in foreign service. So at Georgetown, I chose a hard program, like an idiot. And so I was constantly studying in between running, but it was rewarding. Got the degree in May, and then I did a specific focus on history. So I wrote a lot of 25 to 30 page papers about sometimes even the history of philosophy. So there's I'm familiar with some of these quandaries.
What is your favorite part of history that you like to study?
It is really fascinating to look at how ideas, sometimes from philosophers, sometimes from scientists, impact the world on a much grander scale. So, for example, the theory of evolution totally transformed the world in the 19th century, brought about, one could argue, some of the greatest political experiments in the world, and some of the worst. Social Darwinism was one of the most cataclysmic ideas that resulted in the tragedies of the Holocaust. Then again, we need evolution for our understanding of the world, and it's an important piece, I think, of education, so long as we use it in the way that it was intended. So that's just one example, but it's really cool to reach back for an old idea that maybe in the 1880s was outlandish, and then to see how that idea has been accepted today as just common knowledge.
Although, have you ever been to the Dinosaur Museum and the Creation Museum in Tennessee?
I know. Is that ark?
Yeah.
The giant ark.
Yeah.
I remember following the press coverage of that actually very, very actively, because it was fascinating to me to see if they could.
Oh, it's fascinating. All right.
I haven't checked on it recently. The last I checked, they were having some financial problems. But,
I think they're having a lot of financial problems.
Yeah, they're you just scoop out half your brain just to get a hold of that one, man. I don't know.
But I think we're at the end of this episode. So
yeah,
thank you very much.
Yeah, stick around, Jack.
It was really great. It was really great talking to you, hearing from you. But Martin, why don't you tell us a little bit about the survey?
Yeah. Okay, folks. Yeah, so we have a survey going on to help make this show a lot better. It's a really quick survey. Go to the website, click on the survey, or even at the bottom of this one here too, right, Koji?
Survey, yeah. Show notes, yes.
Yeah, in the show notes, you'll see the link for the survey. Take it. It's really, really fast. If you're like me, I hate anything more than 5 questions. I'll just bail out. But it's a really quick survey. It'll help us in a big way. What you like, what you don't like, how you heard about us. But most importantly, speaking of history, Jack, you get an opportunity to get a copy of Koji's brand new graphic novel, 442, about the Japanese-American unit that served in World War II. It's a fascinating story. If you don't know anything about it, this, I'm hoping, I keep telling him this all the time, I hope and pray that it gets made into a movie, because it's just reeking of movie. But it's a great graphic novel, and you get a chance to get one of those if you fill out the survey. It's really quick, and the benefits definitely outweigh the survey itself, because it's a great, great graphic novel. So please, bottom of the show notes, go to the website, fill out the survey. We greatly appreciate it. Jack, thank you. And we'll talk to you in a little bit again about your best or worst. Okay, buddy?
Thank you, guys. Bye.